Male, 31 here. For the past 15 years, I've been dealing with a medical condition that requires constant medication and consistent doctor's visits. I had always been projected to live until 50-60-ish, however, a recent complication has cut that down to 12 months, 16 at best. In about 10 months, my condition should start getting a lot worse. After 12 months, I'll essentially be living in the hospital. I am married of 4 years, no kids. I haven't had the heart to tell my wife the news. I don't even know how. We always knew I'd die younger than I wanted to, but we never expected it to be this soon. As much as I know I should tell my wife, I don't want my last year to be plagued with an impending doom. My wife and I have always talked about living abroad somewhere, maybe Australia, but we've never found the time or money to do so. I've been saving up to go to graduate school, however, I don't see much point in that now. So here's my idea, take some of that money and take my wife to Australia for a few months and enjoy the time together. I have a job I can work remotely from anywhere and she has a job that she can easily find work anywhere. We can work part-time and enjoy our time together. When we get back, or maybe towards the end of it, I will break the news to her. I just wouldn't want the trip to be ruined for us by constant reminders of me dying. I know my wife, and she's very emotional, to the point where I feel like she will be crying every day and not enjoying herself. I want this memory to be a good one for her and not plagued by my time ticking down. Am I the a-hole for putting off telling her I am dying? Note, I have life insurance that will take care of her, so I am not too worried about spending this money now on this trip. And I plan on talking to her about a sperm bank, just in case she decides she wants my kids in the future, as well as premised birthday cards and other things for her to have. No a-holes here, but you need to tell her. Imagine if the position were reversed. Also, you'll need to do some more research on this plan, I think. It's hard to get a visa that entitles you to work in Australia without sponsorship, but she may not need to work. Healthcare is a bigger issue. What if something happens in Australia and you need care, or to be returned to wherever you live? You'll need travel insurance that will cover a pre-existing condition, or get private insurance for travelers once you're there. You're the a-hole, but I get it. It's not an easy choice to make, and you're thinking about her throughout this decision of yours to give her one last series of happy moments. But she does deserve to know, and she deserves to have a say in how the next year or so will be for you both. Good luck. I hope those doctors are wrong. I'm very sorry OP. For everything you're going through. Please let your wife go through it with you and make the most of the time left. Together. As a team. Give her the chance to be with you and please don't make her look back wishing she did things differently. Tell her. You're the a-hole. Firstly, I'm sorry this is happening to you both. My father died when I was 80, made the decision not to tell us kids. He had justifications similar to yours. He didn't want to upset us. He didn't want things to change and us to look at him as a dying man. I mean, who can really be that vulnerable to an 8-year-old who thinks dad is invincible? But now 21 years later I'm still upset about it. I felt wronged. I feel like it was selfish. I could go on, but ultimately it just wasn't fair to HS. I could go on, but stop reading this and go tell her right now and cherish what time you have left together. No a-holes here, but I think you should tell her. Your wife thinks she has a good 20 years left with you to make memories and to have you by her side, but in reality she's unaware she only has one. If you tell her, when you don't have much time left, she will get this bomb dropped on her and then shortly after have to bear the burden of losing her spouse. I completely understand your point of view, but please tell her so she is able to prepare herself and make the most of her time with you instead of being overwhelmed with grief and panic in the later part of your life. And I'm sorry you're going through this at such a young age. I hope you're doing okay. Not so much an a-hole, I can understand wanting to spare your spouse from horrible news. I know that my wife would be pissed at me if I didn't tell her. I'd rather not spend the last few weeks of my life having her be mad at me for not telling her. So, update. Hey all. I wasn't sure if I was going to make this update, but things are getting gloomier and I feel that I owe you guys the closure you deserve for all the help you gave me, as well as the multiple news stories lol. Although I didn't respond much due to everything being so new and overwhelming, I want each of you to know that I read every single comment and message multiple times over the past year and a half. I did end up telling my wife soon after my post. She took it rough, as expected. It ruined me to see her that way, but I knew that I needed to tell her. She did enjoy reading through the original thread though, as many of you had heartwarming thoughts and messages. We took the time that we needed to ensure that she would be set up as best as possible. Following that, we went and spent the best 4 months of my life in Australia. The experience was amazing, and I couldn't have asked for a better dying wish. We came back just in time for COVID. Honestly, I was scared to death and still am, but somehow I've lasted this long. I've lost much of my strength, and hospice has come in to set up the house and ensure that I am comfortable enough to die. I had thought that I would be dead by now, so it is hard to complain about getting a little extra time. I've left a large collection of greeting cards in possession with a friend birthdays, first anniversary without me, remarriage, children's birth and birthdays, if she uses my sperm. I didn't tell her about any of these, just because some of these events aren't guaranteed. But I know that they can help if the time comes around. Overall, I'm content, about as content as I can be. There's a lot of things I would have done differently in life if I had known this would happen, but that's unfortunately out of my control. However, I do know that I did the most I could have done with the remaining time I was given. I am just glad that I had time left while I still had my health, as I know that many aren't as lucky. Thanks again for all of your help. I'll answer any questions you guys have, so long as it isn't personally identifiable, which includes my medical information, as my town paper was thoughtful enough to write an article about me. Just be patient please, even typing for long periods of time gets painful. Hey man. I was diagnosed with stage 4 melanoma cancer 5 years ago. I fortunately beat it, so far, with immunotherapy drugs, however I expect it will return before I'm able to live to full retirement. I knew I would be dead within 6 months. It didn't bother me at all though. Here's how I viewed it. We live in the best time in all of human history. You were able to fly 35k feet in the air at 400 miles per hour to Australia. No human ever in history up until around 100 years ago ever got to experience such an awe-inspiring thing. You've been able to eat better than any king in the history of humanity. Think about the food available to us today. Imagine how kings thought they ate so good all throughout history, they didn't experience probably 1/100th of the food you were able to experience in your life. This goes for drink as well. The best things in life are actually the most simple. Hot coffee outside on cool mornings. Grilling a great steak with a cold beer while the sky turns orange as the sun sets. Kittens purring, puppies playing. My point is this. They estimate there have been around 8,100 billion humans who ever lived. Most humans that ever lived are already gone. But you my friend lived better than 99.9% of them. You won the human lotto. We all did. Drink a cold one for me buddy because I'll be right behind you, we are all right behind you. See you on the other side. The only thing I would caution you on is the future greeting cards. I had a friend who did this for his partner after he died, and while it was incredibly sweet and kind, it also stopped his partner from moving on. Every time she received a card it reopened all of her grief over losing him. I'm not saying don't do it, but just maybe talk to the friend who is holding on to them and ask them to use their discretion about whether or not to go through with giving them to her. It might be easier to just leave a single letter that says everything you want her to know. Also, as a kid whose father died when I was 9 months old, please leave a video for them. Just for them. It took me over 30 years to find the single letter my father had left for me that my mother had hidden. And all I ever wanted was to hear what his voice sounded like when he said my name. To see what his face looked like when he said he loved me. That shit can leave a hole in your heart bigger than anything you can find to fill it. I spent way too much of my life with the mentality I can't wait for this to be over. I can't wait for high school to be over so I can go to college. I can't wait for college to be over so I can move out and start making real money. I can't wait for when I can get promoted so that I can afford that car I want. I lived most of my life looking forward to the future and then ended up brutally realizing I suddenly had no future. I wish I lived in the moment more and quit constantly hoping for better things. Hey, I'm a schizophrenic. Started when I was 22 and will last till I die. I'm active in schizophrenic communities, go to groups, the works, but I am fairly private about it to most people, to include friends. It's fairly common for people to think I'm eccentric, comes with a turf, due to some of my habits. Those habits include not going to parties or other places with lots of people, suddenly deciding not to do something I have to be protective not to do, or go to certain things if I think a delusion might be coming on, saying the occasional odd quip, normal schizophrenic stuff. Some friends thought it would be funny to make it seem like I might be going crazy as a group. They would individually wear something silly like a wizard hat or dinosaur costume, TRX blow-up costume, to a group event, or say something totally out of the ordinary and pretend like it was normal. Police like to track people like you, COVID is just a way to microchip you, etc. These are very real scary thoughts to me. I would ask members of the group if they had heard concerns about these conspiracies or weird garb from the other members, but they all acted like they had hung out with that particular member that day and I hadn't been involved. I was really scared that this could have been a massive delusion morphing into a full psychosis, so I preemptively checked myself into a hospital to stop myself from potentially hurting myself or diving further into the rabbit hole common in schizophrenic community. I was so scared my medication stopped working. No one heard from me for a few days while I was in the hospital, and when I checked out I confided in one of them about what had happened. I got a really long apology explaining what had happened and I blew up at them. I have ignored attempts from the others trying to apologize and have no desire to talk with them again. Am I the a-hole for not previously stating that I am schizophrenic? Not the a-hole. Even if you didn't disclose your medical history, they knew enough that saying those things would freak you out. If a prank doesn't leave both parties laughing, it isn't a prank, it's bullying. A prank is leaving plastic flamingos on a friend's lawn or something harmless like that. That wasn't a prank. When it comes to pranks, confuse, don't abuse. Oh, honey, this breaks my heart. My partner is schizophrenic, and it's hard enough on its own without some group of a-holes deciding it would be fun to collectively gaslight you. Please go with your gut and never talk to these a-holes again. As far as whether not telling them ahead of time makes you an a-hole, maybe in some alternate reality where schizophrenia stigma didn't exist. Also, I have never even heard of a group of friends doing this particular prank en masse, so I don't know how you could have anticipated this happening, because for the most part, this doesn't happen. I'm proud of you for going to the hospital when you felt you needed to, that's a hard thing to do. A lot of people look back at the friends they had at your age and can't believe they ever put up with such an immature pack of a-holes. You'll meet better people, and hopefully some of your ex-friends will learn a lesson and become better friends in their futures. Not the a-hole, your medical history is your own private information. You don't owe it to anyone. They could, at the very least, tell that you had anxiety about things and it was wrong of them to try to mess with you, especially once they could tell you were starting to get really upset, anxious, and confused. Time for some new friends. So, update. Hey. I had a few folks message me over the last couple of months, the latest tonight. It touches me that so many of you still message me to see if things are going well, so I wanted to update people en masse. Life is going phenomenally. I axed a friend group and have since been kicking butt. I realized that if my close friend group was consistently putting me down or taking advantage of me, who else could be? The biggest answer was myself. I stopped doing things I enjoyed to invest in people that took joy in hurting me. Turns out it went so much deeper than gaslighting. I got 2 new hobbies, woodworking and brewing. I absolutely love them both and have made friends in those communities. I started cooking instead of takeout, and I met the woman who is now my girlfriend at the local market, and we do most things together now. I realized my job had been taking a huge advantage over me. I worked significantly harder and longer hours for less pay than the employees under me. After I transitioned to taking better care of myself, I successfully created a resume that outlined my successes, recognizing those successes took quite a bit of effort, and got a new job in higher management for significantly more pay. I'm also going to buy a house this December with a yard for my dog and I. Nothing big, just a nice 1-bedroom with a large yard for my buddy and I to play fetch in. So thanks, guys. Oh, you won. Never would have made life improvement if it weren't for an external force. Wow. I absolutely remember your original post as someone else who struggles with mental illnesses. They were so completely out of line, but never forget who got you out of that dangerous situation, you. You have been working on living a stable life long enough to know that something was off and your health was number one. Keep realizing your worth and living a kick-ass life. Absolutely this. OP should take full credit for the steps he's taken, and I fully respect him for taking those steps as they must have been difficult and it would definitely have taken a lot of courage on his part. Leaving a friend group, no matter how toxic they may be, is always a hard thing to do, and I respect him even more for having the courage to do this. I'm really glad that he's found and pursued new interests and hobbies. OP is fantastic. This just might be my favorite update ever. You completely altered the trajectory of your life for the better. Wow, you better. Good for you. I wish you nothing but joy in the new life you have created for yourself. I think sometimes we all get stuck in a rut. Some of us flee from change, some grin and bear it. The best of us self-reflect during times of trouble, take the bull by the horns, and make changes to ourselves. Never easy, but always worth it. For the record, I'm a grin and bear it girl. I can self-reflect and know what bad habits I need to change, but don't have the confidence to do it. Maybe this is the kick in the, but I need to take control of my own destiny. Thank you for sharing, and keep kicking ass.